What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Tech Yeah Podcast Numero Dos. Today we talk about electric airplanes, and once again, loot boxes are back in the news. Let's go, everybody. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Tech Yeah.
Tech Yeah,
buddy. We are coming to you live from Bill and Tony Studios over here, and let's check in. Bill, how are you doing this week? How's your week going so far?
Week is going great so far. It's a short week, which makes work a little bit tricky. Unfortunately, don't have the luxury of having less work to do on shorter weeks, so I have to cram the same amount of work into a smaller box, which is fun. It's interesting, but it's going well.
It's crazy how with what we do, right? Like you get a day off and it's just the worst. You're just
I know,
like,
I dread it. Like the lead up to a day off or vacation is terrifying, and coming back from any time off is terrifying.
Yeah. What else have you been streaming this week, Bill?
Yeah, the streams have been going okay. So on Monday, I think I talked about it briefly last week. The first episode, I tried out this new format for a show where I fly to a location, and during the flight, my wife Julia is cooking a meal based on the location that we're flying to. So I had a couple of tests. The first test did not go so well. So I made some adjustments, and I think we got technologically a format that works. So basically, it's a second cam, a live camera in a different room during the stream. So I'm in the office streaming on the flight sim, and then we, go to kitchen cam and check in live, and it seems to work. There's some kinks that need to be ironed out a little bit, but it's an interesting idea that I think could possibly work. So, again, the idea is that when we land in this location, we have a meal based off of the cuisine from that area.
Yeah, and I watched that first test. I mean, yeah, there were some technical difficulties for sure, but it was still a charming stream. I think it's always fun when you and your wife get together and get on content.
I've had her fly a handful of times and be on more of like the flight sim stuff. And she's cool with it, but you can tell that it's not her wheelhouse. She definitely enjoys the cooking and more of the like healthy cooking stuff. And you could definitely tell that the two tests that we've done, she's in like a much lighter, brighter mood as a result. So I think I'm gonna hammer that home.
Yeah, that's great. What about for Labor Day weekend? Anything good for you?
No, we didn't do anything. Just kind of hung around. We had a friend's birthday party in San Diego, so I broke my personal record for driven to airports in a day. We went to 3 different airports on the way down to San Diego: Palomar, Gillespie, and Montgomery.
I know all those airports.
Yeah. Do you really?
I'm from San Diego. So.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Gillespie was phenomenal.
Gillespie's dope.
It's so nice. The little diner there, airport diners is my thing. And it has been by car, and when I get my private license, then it'll obviously be by plane. But the Gillespie diner is amazing, and it's right on the flight line, just watching planes go in and out. Met a guy that flies a Grumman Cheetah, which is kind of a rare small plane, and he showed me around and let me sit in it, and that was pretty cool. Pilots are really nice.
Gillespie's downtown, right?
No, Gillespie is Santee area.
Oh, Santee. Okay, I used to live by Gillespie.
Okay, it's right off of 52.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. 52, and like when you take from the 805 to the 52, you come down the hill, then Gillespie's right in front of you. Yeah,
right. Yeah, right in that little valley. So it's got some. I mean, I've flown into it a million times on the simulator, and I've been there a few times, but it has very interesting approach. For those of you that aren't into aviation, and the approach is just basically everything you do to get lined up with the runway to land. And there's a couple of hills in the way that make certain approaches pretty gnarly.
San Diego's really hilly.
Yeah, it's very hilly.
It's far more topographical, I think, than people realize.
Yeah.
There's
Really. Yeah, I mean, you definitely notice it from the air.
Yeah. Especially like coming into downtown, like coming in San Diego International, like you're coming downhill to get to it because everything's, you're coming out of the valley. Yeah. There's the hills that line it. Then you get back to sea level for the airport.
It's actually it's in the list, consistently in the list of top 10 most dangerous airports in the world.
I believe
commercial wise, from that parking garage.
Oh yeah, it's fun to watch planes come in though, because they're right over the city. Like they feel like they're so close you could touch them. But yeah, my weekend was pretty good. Let me see. So it's been a short week this week. So like you, it's been crazy, like trying to get anything done. Like if you don't know, we're sneaking off after hours trying to get this thing done because we have like no time. But the weekend was pretty full. I mean, I think I talked about it on our stream. That I went and did that Star Wars experience thing this weekend, the VR.
Yeah. What's the name of that thing again?
They call it. It's at the Void. The one I went to was in Glendale.
Okay.
I know they have one in downtown Disney too.
That's one I was aware of.
It's called Secrets of the Empire or something, and it was cool. It's a fun experience. It's a little cheesier than I hoped. As someone that's kind of been really familiar with VR and used Vives a lot and used PSVR a lot, the resolution seemed better, but you're tracking in like a giant 3D space, and you're tracking other people. There's 4 people in a group at a time. So there was some wonkiness as far as like, where's your arms? And, but you could see your hands and your fingers and everything. So it was cool, but a little cheesy. But I will say this. I didn't stop laughing the whole time I was in there. We had so much fun shooting each other and just being dumb, and like it was a really good time.
And what hardware are they using for that?
I think it's a mixture of like Leap Motion and some homebrew stuff. It's not Vive, and it's an all-in-one. It's like a backpack with like vibrating chest and back mounts, and then a headset. And it's not a headset I'm familiar with.
Is the PC hooked to you as well?
Is it
one of those like backpack kind of deals?
Yeah, I would assume that all the components are within that backpack.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was super cool. I'm trying to think of anything else exciting I did this weekend. Well, I mean, there was one thing, right? Like, so I've always been, like, I played a lot of instruments growing up, right? And so I've been on kind of like a tear, and I've been like, I should play piano, right? Like, I played guitar and cello and all, French horns and all this stuff growing up, and I've always kind of been like, I should just get a piano.
Damn, you're a one-man band.
I am a one-man band. You just wait and see, all right? Think who made these dope bumpers we got, okay? But so I've been like, I should learn to play piano. And finally, like this weekend, I had extra time on Labor Day. So I Googled around and was like, I'm going to find a used digital piano for cheap that I can just bring in and practice at home and learn to play, right? And I found one, right? Like I found one that just got posted. And I was like, this is a good deal. I'm going to get it, right? So
weighted keys?
Weighted keys,
Beautiful.
88 key. It's a cheaper one, so they're semi-weighted. They don't feel perfect, but it doesn't feel like a keyboard. It feels like a piano, right?
I think there was like a middle, because I researched those as well, and there's like a middle, like it's almost like the mechanical keyboard kind of thing, where it's like it's not the full mechanical or the full weighted, but it's like somewhere in between.
It has a resistance, so it feels more like a piano than a keyboard, right? Because I've
cool.
had keyboards too where it's just like no resistance, and that's like impossible to learn on. But so I found it. I text this guy. I was like, you still got it? He says, sure. I say, okay, well, you're in the valley. I'm, not. So, I can be in the valley at like 6:30. Where do you want me to meet you? And he tells me to meet him at the airport. And I say at the airport, and he's like, yeah, here's the address. So I'm like, okay, right? Like
the airport. So there's 2 airports in the valley. You got Burbank and Van Nuys. Van Nuys. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's like my favorite. That's one of my favorite places on planet Earth.
So he tells me to meet him at Van Nuys Airport, right?
Yes.
So I start driving, and it's a drive to Van Nuys, right? Like it's not close, and it was Labor Day, so there's like no traffic, and it's still like 45 minutes to Van Nuys, and I'm pulling up, and I get to this like, it's not the like, I'm not at the airport. I'm at this like it's like a business park almost, right? This big long strip. I start driving down it, and I text the guy, and I'm like, I'm kind of at this address, but I don't know where to go. And he's like, we'll just park in the front and meet me in the lobby. So I park in the front, and quickly realized I'm at like a jet facility, right? Like private jets.
No
right?
way.
Yeah, it's like signature private jets, right?
You've got to be kidding me. I was just there a month ago.
So yeah. So that's where I am, right?
What
Signature
the hell?
private jets. And the guy's like, I'm in a green long sleeve shirt. Come meet me in the lobby, right? So I'm just like, what? Maybe he's a mechanic, right? Maybe he's, I don't know, a hobo that's living in their lobby, right? Like, because it's a Craigslist dude, right? You'd expect the worst. And so I walk into the lobby, and this guy stands up and waves to me, and he is a super handsome guy with like 5 o'clock stubble. I say, hi, I'm Tony, and I don't even remember what his name is, but he's like got this French accent, right? And I'm like, what is this place, right? Like, I don't know what it is. And he's like, oh, well, it's a private jet
FPO
airport, right?
Yeah, they're called FPOs.
Okay, so it's a FPO, right? And I'm like,
BO.
oh,
Foxtrot Bravo Oscar.
Foxtrot Bravo Oscar, FBO. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, like, I'm like, are you a pilot? He's like, oh, I used to be. I'm like, you used to be? Yeah. And he's like, oh, the hours were just crazy. He's like, now I fly for federal fire, right? So like the fire prevention federally. And I guess he's like, oh, I fly all over the country and put out fires.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So he flies 5 months out of the year. The rest of the time he's off. He makes good money, it seems. I mean, he still has an office at this jet facility, right? It's all fancy. There's all these fancy ladies in the lobby.
They're so fancy. For those of you that don't know, an FBO at one of these, like Signature's a big one, Clay Lacy's a big one. They're basically country clubs for private jet traffic. I mean, it's a terminal, but it's like a country club for private jets.
Yeah, it felt super fancy. I'll be honest. So I go upstairs with the guy. Like, I go to his office and like, hold on, lights turn off.
No, turn back on, damn it.
So there's like, it's this office we're using. It's got motion lights, and they just shut off on us. So now we're sitting in the dark, and it's fucking mega romantic.
It's very, very romantic.
We're sitting by the light of an Xbox,
which is perfect as you're telling me the story about meeting a very handsome French pilot.
Yeah, so I meet this handsome French pilot on Craigslist. I go upstairs to his office, and he's got another keyboard set up. He's got a guitar. He's got a bunch of bottles of booze in there, and I'm like, "What's all the booze?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm importing champagne and whiskey from France." I'm just like, "What?" And then he pulls out the piano for me. He tests it out. He talks about he's been learning to play for a year with his time off. And I was just like, what is this? But I'm like, if this dude wants to make out, I'm kind of in. Like, I'm kind of down. If there was ever a time, like, now's the time to figure it out. Right? Like, it was so crazy.
Seriously.
It was so crazy. But yeah, so...
That rendezvous could have gone in so many different directions.
But I bought the piano off the guy. Long story short,
I would hope so.
I bought a piano at this fancy airport, and yeah, it was pretty cool actually. And I've been practicing piano these past few days.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
what a ridiculous Craigslist story.
It's yeah, it's pretty. I don't know if it's my most ridiculous, but it's pretty ridiculous.
Well, you got a taste of the aviation life. That is the number one general aviation airport in the world. It's the busiest. It's the most famous. There's a movie made off of that, a documentary. It's called 16 Right, and it's in the aviation world. That is like the runway. People fly from all over the world just to say they landed at Van Nuys 16 Right.
So could you request it on inbound?
You can, yeah. If you got a small plane, and they'll try to send you on 16 left, and you're like, "Can I please go on 16 right?"
Really?
Yeah. There's two parallel runways, and 16 left is the little guy. No one wants that one. They want the big dog.
That's so funny.
Let me land at the big dog.
That's so funny. Yeah, I honestly, when I was there, I thought of you.
I would. Yeah, that's really funny. It's funny that I've been in that lobby that you're talking about.
I was like, Bill would get such a kick out of this. There's jets everywhere. There's handsome pilots. There's all this stuff going on. And I immediately just thought of you.
Dude, that is my world right there. I've been in there. I met one of my friends who's a jet pilot in there, and It's fantastic. Hey, you want any coffee? Do you want a Wall Street Journal? You want some chocolate? It's like, it's the kind of place where the bathroom has deodorant and aftershave in there.
Oh, I should have gone in there. I should have snaked some.
It was nice.
I should have got down on some of that. I could use some free deodorant. Okay, so that's our weeks. Let's jump into the news. Bill, you got a story for me?
Yeah, and that actually segues nicely to the story that I've got here, and it is aviation related. So we're tech, but we don't want to be just consumer electronic tech. We kind of want to touch on all different types of technology, and a big part of that is transportation. So this story comes from AOPA. And that's Pilots Association, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. And it is the Sunflyer 2 Type Certificate in Works is the headline of this story. And this is pretty crazy. By Aerospace said the FAA type certification is in works for the Sunflyer 2. Company officials expect it to become the first all-electric plane in the world to receive the agency's blessing. So that's the headline. The Sunflyer 2 is an all-electric airplane, and the FAA is the Federal Aviation Association. There are electric airplanes in Europe flying that are rated in Europe, but the FAA is kind of like the tougher. It's kind of like our. In the automotive industry, it's tougher to get a car certified to sell in the U.S. than it is overseas, which is why there's so many more makes and models overseas. So this is pretty crazy. And if you guys know anything about electric cars and know their limitations, just imagine having those limitations in a package that's flying at 5,000 feet in the air, and weight is much more of a concern than it is in cars. So the 2-seat airplane will have a retail price of $289,000, which in aviation is actually pretty cheap.
Sounds affordable.
Yeah. The company has deposits for about 140 aircraft. It's also planning to produce a 4-seat model called the Sunflyer 4 with a retail price of $389,000 and direct operating costs of about $20 per flight hour, which is absolutely mind-boggling. The production version of the Sunflyer 2 will have a slightly longer wing and wider cockpit than the prototype and will carry additional batteries. The airplane is designed to cruise at 138 knots at 5,000 feet and climb at about 1,000 feet per minute. It currently has about 3.5-hour endurance, and they said that number will rise when battery technology improves.
So what's a knot compared to a mile? Is that like an average flying plane speed, or is this a slow
that's
plane?
a pretty 138 knots is pretty good. I mean, it would be considered like an LSA type aircraft, which is a light sport aircraft, which has a little bit different requirements and licensing requirements. But the big thing that caught my eye on this, obviously it's airplane related, but it's the cost. So the Sunflyer 2 is $3 per flight hour, and the 4 is $20 per flight hour. So there's a big jump there. But compare that to like what the plane that I fly, which is on the very low end of the spectrum in terms of cost, and it's $150 per hour.
Yeah, I would think fuel alone
it's insane.
$100 or more per flight hour, right?
Yeah. So to get this down to as low as $3 per hour is game changing, and this is definitely going to be more geared towards the training and flight school world than it is private owners.
Yeah, so that was the math I was doing in my head. Like 3.5-hour flight time at 128 knots. What kind of range is that? Like, that seems like you might make it to San Francisco.
No. Yeah, you're not going to make it to San Francisco because you want to have some reserves in there. But you could go from LA to San Diego all day long. You can go LA to Palm Springs. You can go to Catalina, Santa Barbara. So you're staying pretty close, which is, I mean, the size of these planes are not conducive to long hauls anyway, just comfort wise, because they're a little bit smaller.
So you want to look at places that are about 2 to 2.5 hours by car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you're looking at about, an hour and a half flight time generally. If it has a 3.5 hour endurance, you don't really want to push it on that.
Yeah, you don't want to get close.
No.
Because you might get caught at an airport. You can't land.
Yeah.
You got to find another airport.
Yeah.
You need to have time for that.
There's a lot of planning involved in kind of cross-country flights like that. But, I mean, the prices, obviously, to a lot of you are probably going to be pretty shocking. $289 for the cheaper one. And the fact that they're a little bit behind on the evolution of these. We've had electric cars for a long time, but there's just not the volume that there is in the automotive industry, and there's not a huge market even there for electric cars. So the aviation equivalent of stuff is always insanely expensive because of all the regulations around it. So you could have the exact same bolt. You could go into a hardware store and buy a bolt for 20 cents and then have the exact same bolt that you need to, fasten, a part of a landing gear or a wing. It's the same hardware, but it'll be $20.
It's got to be tested, okay?
It's got to be tested and over-tested, and it costs money to get the certification for the part. There's a lot of stuff involved in it, so that drives the cost up. But the fact that we're at the point where we could have an airplane running on batteries at 138 knots is like 150 miles an hour at 5,000 feet for 3.5 hours is freaking amazing.
I mean, realistically, like, not talking about like actually planning a flight, but if you just put this thing in the air and flew it as far as it could, it would reach destinations like Las Vegas and San Francisco.
Yeah, you could get pretty far, yeah.
So, I mean, realistically, like, what I see this as a proof of concept that, like, if they could make small electric planes at this kind of operating cost that could fly to Vegas, per se, right? Yeah. I could see chartering a flight like this to Vegas at a pretty reasonable cost compared to what you would pay to take a private fuel-powered plane to, like, Las Vegas.
Right.
Right? Because, the hour is so much cheaper.
It's amazing. And the only number I can really quote right now is a Cessna Citation 10, which is a smaller private jet. It happens to be the fastest, but to take that plane from New York to Los Angeles and back is $60,000. Yeah. So just turning one of those things on costs $1,500 to $2,000 before you even turn the actual engines on. So it's massively expensive. And if they can get the costs down, and like long haul stuff like that's going to take a lot of batteries and a lot of engineering to make that happen. But we're getting to the point where this stuff, even on low volume, tiny market aerospace industries, this is going to start getting really cool.
Yeah,
just the fact that we're this close to an FAA certification, a Type 23 certification, is big time. That's big news.
And with like the Tesla style tech, right? The thing that comes to my mind when I hear the story is like Tesla. Like with that kind of a battery tech, right? And the way it's advancing, right? That's what I mean. Like if there was a 6-seater that came out variant of this with a little bit better battery tech, and you could charter flights to and from Vegas and San Francisco, it seems like you might be able to charter that flight for $400.
It's going to get very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the operating costs revolving around aviation are fuel is a huge one, obviously, but there, it's $5 a gallon, and you're obviously using a lot of fuel, but it's really the maintenance cost that gets crazy. And these planes will still have maintenance costs associated with them, with the airframe and certain things, but it's the bulk of it. The bulk of it is usually the engine. The engine needs to get overhauled after a certain amount of time, and electric motors have one moving part. And they're projecting this thing to fly up to 10,000 hours before overhaul and replacement of that motor. So to put that in perspective, an average piston-driven airplane, so the little Cessnas, Pipers, Cirruses that you see flying overhead, they have a usual overhaul time of 2,000 hours. So this is 5 times longer before you need to overhaul it.
That's crazy.
And we're there. The application has been sent to the FAA.
It just seems like something like this could really drive like the cost of, low volume chartered flights down so high that it would be dumb to fly commercial, right?
Exactly. And it's going to start translating into, what we've seen, these kind of unmanned drone style taxis. The battery tech is getting to the point where that kind of stuff is around the corner, and it's going to change the way we move, at least in, kind of a moderate distance.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Like if it makes sense to pop down to San Diego and spend 45 minutes on one of these as opposed to spending 2.5 hours in traffic, and it's going to cost you $100. Like
cities are going to start looking different if this stuff really takes off.
Yeah, for sure. Small airports all over the place. They could just pop these things up in the air, get you to the next city over, and that plane drops, recharges, and is ready to go to the next city, right?
And this fast charging technology, I mean, some of the times that they were quoting, it's like full charge in 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, I could talk about airplanes literally all day long.
Do you want to talk about airplanes all day?
Yeah,
What's your favorite airplane?
Oh, man. Do I have to...
You have to pick one.
If I had to pick one airplane, my dad flew A4 Skyhawks, so I kind of like those, but I really think I would go with a Lockheed Electra.
I don't even know what that is. Why are you talking about weird airplanes?
Lockheed Electra.
What is your favorite military airplane?
F-14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tomcats,
yeah.
That's right up your alley.
I mean, it was just kind of like the 80s kid favorite plane. I mean, it was just everywhere.
What's my favorite military airplane?
Yours is... A-10 Warthog.
A-10 Warthog all the way.
Is it?
Yeah, all the way.
Nice.
Love that thing.
That's awesome.
It's a beast, bro. It's a beast. I think
it.
I've mentioned A-10s in your channel before, so I think it's like I've given
maybe,
you some
yeah,
hints.
you might have planted the seed.
But yeah, A-10s are dope.
They're so dope.
That front-mounted gun, they just sound so crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
I love them. Okay, so my story, what I brought today, and this is going to get spicy. I can tell it's going to get super spicy, right? So a few days ago, this was kind of making the rounds, that 2K, makers of the 2K sports franchises, NBA 2K, all these things, were petitioning their players to reach out to the Belgian government to allow them to sell loot boxes. I'm going to read the actual statement here, and we'll go from there.
2K
okay?
themselves?
Yes. So this statement came from 2K. All right. This is the English version. The Belgium Gaming Commission has stated that games which include certain loot box style mechanics violate gambling laws in Belgium. While we disagree with this position, we are working to comply with the BGC's current interpretation of these laws. As a result, we have made some local changes to the My Team mode. These changes are necessary in order for us to accommodate the BGC's interpretation of the Belgian Gaming Act. Specifically, we'll be turning off the ability to purchase packs with premium non-earned currency /VC, I think is a in-game currency. Gamers are still able to acquire packs with My Team points. We will be continuing the conversation with the BGC. We'll explain our views on NBA 2K My Team. Pack purchases already comply with local laws. I already read that totally wrong. If you agree, we recommend that you contact your local government representative to communicate your opinion. We will keep the community posted on any developments. We apologize for any inconvenience. So they're literally saying, like, Belgium made this law that ruins our game mode. You need to tell your Belgian government that you don't want them involved. And I think everyone's response is, good job, government, for doing a positive thing and stopping this terrible company. But it goes back to loot boxes, right? Like, what are loot boxes and what is fair? And I'll tell you this, like, unpopular opinion, when Overwatch was coming out, everyone was like, oh, it's okay. I was terrified at their loot box strategy, right? Because I saw what it did to Call of Duty, and I saw that Overwatch was really legitimizing this random loot box thing. Like, Blizzard hadn't really gone down that path before, and when Overwatch came out, they were really making it mainstream, right? They were really like, hey, we're going to give you all the characters. We're going to give you all the maps. And as long as you're down to play this random game and you still pay us full price for your game, then it's all free, but nothing's free. You know what I mean? Like nothing's free. So it really scared me, and it scared me in the fact that they were doing it in a way that was fair but shitty, you know, and I feel like now that's crept into everything in a way that is shitty and not fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and they've made over $1 billion with those loot boxes.
So much money, you know,
and that's why 2K is making this plea, because it's, you know, obviously they're going to try to word it to their customers in a way that makes it look like they're losing out on something, but it's just they're losing a massive portion of their revenue that they were probably banking on.
Yeah, it makes me really curious. Like, you look at companies like EA, right? EA obviously is like the demon of loot boxes.
Yeah,
right?
they've gotten hammered on that stuff.
Yeah, and people get so mad. Star Wars was like this big to do, and people were so upset. But you got to think EA, like, because of the success of FIFA, and you know, they plan a big portion of their income around loot boxes, right? I don't know if have you ever played FIFA?
Yeah.
So you know, you've like the dream. I don't even know what they call the team building.
Yeah, I can't remember what they call it either. But like
packs.
all the games have that kind of style of fantasy game within the video game.
Yeah,
and you're just buying packs of cards,
players, right? With like rarities, right?
Yeah.
So you spend the point that the issue, I think the contention comes in where you spend the money and you get back a random reward, right? You don't know what it is. You can't buy the things you want. You spend the money to get a chance to get something. More often than not, you're not going to get anything you want. And it's going to encourage you to keep throwing money and trying to get what you want. And, you know, I think, you know, EA has had so much success with FIFA that they've kind of realized that, like, we need to integrate this type of funding system into all of our games to their detriment, right? Battlefront is famously done poorly, Battlefront 2, because of their implementation of loot boxes. So you know, I really, in some ways, feel for them, not because I think it's right what they're doing, but as someone that works at a company that uses metrics to try and drive growth. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely the data-driven decision, you know?
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to both sides on this, big time. I mean, I know people that are, you know, developers that are, you know, connected with the company and, you know, freelance. And there's so much time and so much expense going into these games. And it's almost just like who's better at the PR at some point. Because everybody does it, and some people just get mad at companies more than others. But what bothers me about mainly the things that EA has done is that it is largely pay-to-win style loot boxes. You know, those cards help you if you spend more money and get more cards and have better cards. As a result, you will win more. That's the problem that I have. I have no problem with companies charging a premium to get extra content, but it's putting players at a disadvantage that don't pay that extra money, and that I think is detrimental to the video game community in general. There's always going to be whales. That's the buzzword, you know. It's a small percentage of them are spending the most money, but they're at a advantage in the game, and I think that goes against the industry, video game industry.
Well, I think what really takes it into like this deep level of shittiness really is like the absolute unknown about it, right? Like you look at another game that has made boatloads of money on microtransaction is Fortnite, right? The biggest game on the planet right now. It's free to play. Okay? No one's got to pay to get into the door. EA has no free to play games. Okay? Not only is it free to play, you know what you're getting with your money. There's no random chances, nope. Right? So, you know, it feels fair. The money you put into Fortnite gives you back a known quantity, right?
And it's strictly cosmetic.
Right? So you get to, if you really want something and you're a kid, you can ask your parents, I need $20. I want to get this specific thing. If you're an adult, you can make an informed decision about what you're purchasing. Where, with the EA games, it's completely the opposite. You ask for $20 or you spend your $20 and you don't get anything you wanted, and you feel defeated and bad, and you feel almost, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for, but you feel driven or compelled. I think compulsion is the...
Well, and that's why I think they've made, a lot of these European countries have made the connection with gambling, because it is a compulsion.
Yeah, it's purely compulsion, right? Like, it's like, we're going to give you a bad beat right here.
Yep.
And you're going to come back for more.
Right.
Right, because that's what gambling is.
Right. And especially when it's a game that you like and you want to succeed at and you're losing, and if you had that one player, if you had that one card or gun, whatever, it'll help your rankings.
Yeah, or these things you want are going away. If you want to get this, you have to get it now.
And Fortnite to me is an example of a developer that's done it, I think, correctly from both their perspective and the player's perspective. So from this is a website called quartzqz.com. It's a little bit old. It's published in June of 2018, but the average Fortnite player that spends money spends $85. The average player overall spends $58. And at that time, it had made just under $300 million. Compare that to Overwatch, which has made over $1 billion using loot boxes, which it's been around for a lot longer. But, you can see why companies are, would use the loot box, because it has proven to work, at least from the Blizzard side. But you have probably the largest player base of any video game in history, and you're giving it away for free, yet you've still somehow managed to average out a full $60 game.
Yeah, they're not hurting, right?
Like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, they found a way to monetize. They found a way to make people feel valued, to make their money feel, to make them feel like they're spending their money on something they want. And it's, I don't even really like Fortnite. I
don't. Yeah,
I have it. I play it sometimes.
I openly bash Fortnite. Like, I think it's a dumb game.
I think you're a dumb game. I wouldn't call it a dumb game like Bill over here, but it's not my favorite game, right? But at the same time, I can see why people are drawn to it, and I can definitely see why it feels fair to give them your money, right? Like, why people are encouraged.
Yeah, the game has remained, the playing field is still level. So you've got, you're falling out of the battle bus holding a, inflatable goose, or, I don't know what the hell.
Inflatable goose.
Isn't that one of the things you can buy? Like, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. Some stupid meme crap add-on dance move thing.
A llama.
Yeah, like something that means nothing. But they've packaged it in a way that their player base goes apeshit for it and spends money. Like, good for them.
Yeah,
honestly.
So I don't even know if you know about this, but you familiar with Ubisoft games?
Yeah.
So lately I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, right? And For Honor is another one that kind of has a similar model. But so they kind of do a hybrid, right? They have like so they have things you can buy, like, so they offer a version of the game that has like a season pass tied to it, right? Where you can buy everything.
And it's a $60 game, full retail game.
I think if you want all the stuff, it's more than that. Okay. But I think $60 you get a lot of it. I bought the $20 cheap version of it. So the $20 version, you don't get all the heroes, right? They call them operators in Rainbow Six, right? So the characters. But you can buy them flat out for like $5 each if you want, right?
So they give you, if you bundle it, they give you a little discount on them.
Yeah, if you bundle, you get a discount on them. Otherwise, you can buy the cheap one and only buy the ones you want. Or you can buy the cheap one and earn them with in-game currency. right? Which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have loot boxes too. The loot boxes don't have operators, but that's how you get like skins and like gun charms that hang off the side of your guns and things
Fluffy
like
things.
Visual things,
Yeah,
right?
visual fluff.
Which is nice. So far I'm with it. Like I'm like, oh, these are. It doesn't feel the most rewarding. I feel like there's some issues with the way they monetize, but it seems fair until you realize that they also have a starter edition for Rainbow Six Siege, right? That's $15. It's the cheapest version. If you buy the cheapest version, the only difference between that and the next version is that now everyone you unlock costs more experience, right? So if
On
you
the
don't
beginner version, it costs more?
it costs more experience to unlock characters.
Yeah.
So what they're basically saying is if you don't know what you're doing and you just buy the cheap one,
Yeah. It's going to be a grind.
it's going to be a super grind and you're just going to give us money anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the grind is like impossibly long. And to me, like everything else seems fair. And then I see that and I'm like, that is so shitty.
That is shitty. But I get it from a marketing perspective. I get it. And I don't know what their financials are on any of these companies. But I think back to what's like the furthest back I can go. Like, I mean, speaking of 2K, I think like NBA 2K7. So 2007, I was buying games at GameStop for $60. You know, I'm sure the $60 game goes back even further than that. Like I think the PS2 era was even $60 games. Like maybe GTA 3 was a $60 game.
Yeah, $60 has kind of been the price.
It's been the price for a long time.
Earlier games were actually more expensive than that.
Were they?
Yeah, like NES and SNES and Sega cartridges.
They were in the 70s, weren't they?
A lot of times you get like $70 and $80 cartridges, depending on like. So the thing about those cartridges is they had like memory in them,
right?
Like to save and all that stuff wasn't built into the consoles yet. So a lot of times with those you were paying for the hardware, manufacturing hardware inside the cartridge.
Yeah. So like, just inflation wise, how an industry has been able to sustain itself on maintaining one price for 15 years is crazy. And I mean, I don't know financially how they're doing it outside of these add-on things. I mean, just imagine a game studio. Imagine one of these large game studios, you know, Rockstar San Diego or 2K up in San Francisco or who else we got? Like, what is it? I almost said Acclaim.
Acclaim?
Yeah.
Midway? Is that?
Yeah, Midway Games. Yeah, their operation's not looking like it was. What's the guys that are in Santa Monica? I'm blanking on them.
There's a Sony in Santa Monica. There's Riot in Santa Monica. Activision's in Santa Monica.
Activision's what I'm thinking of. Like, just you could obviously Google them and look at what their buildings look like, but just imagine what they probably look like on the inside. And then think of all the expense of that and all of the, you know, the developers and coders and artists that are working in there and all what those salaries might be. You don't even have to know what the numbers are to just imagine that these companies have a bunch of overhead and are publicly traded and have, you know, like boards that they have to placate and
fiduciary responsibilities.
Yeah, like they have to make money. They have to make a profit off of a $60. Like somehow the gaming industry has decided that they will not pay for anything more than $59.99.
In a lot of ways, they're legally obligated to make as much money as possible.
Right.
If you have a board and investors,
absolutely,
you are legally obligated to try and earn as much money as you can. But, you know, I think that that's true. I also think that you're a corporate apologist and a shill, right?
Yeah.
I think that you're evil and you're supporting evil people, but that's not the point. I think you're right, though. I think there is these aren't going away, right? I think we do need to find ways to monetize the amount of work that goes into making games right now, right? Like, it's expensive. I mean, you know, I think back on like World of Warcraft, right? And buying the game and paying $15 a month to play the game.
Yeah, that was, I forgot about that. You're right.
And it still exists,
Yeah.
And I played that game for years, right? And I never really complained. Like, I understood that the undertaking that was World of Warcraft required ongoing costs, and I think they made those costs feel
They put it to use.
feel fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you were constantly getting content, and the world felt lived in and large and busy. So I think that there's an argument to be made that we do need to kind of support paying for the content we're going to receive, right? I think the problem comes in when it's shitty compulsion driven spending, right? Where you're not necessarily making a conscious decision to pay for the content that you enjoy or offer additional money to support that content. You're literally being emotionally compelled to give these people just money, just profits.
Yeah, it's almost like a bait and switch. But I kind of take it from an open market, a free market standpoint, because like World of Warcraft is a good example of a way that a developer monetized a game that's different than go to GameStop and pay $60 for it. Fortnite is another way that a developer monetized the game. Let's give it away for free, but give them goofy skins and shit and make them buy it. EA has done it in ways that have made people mad. And then there's the $60 game, like Battlefield's a good example, or Forza, where you get the full game and then there's continued development. And I think it's just whatever type of game supports whatever type of monetization.
Yeah, and let's be fair. Like, I think you're right, because I think the free market is kind of dictating who's going to succeed in all this and who isn't, right? Like EA obviously has not had a lot of success in this shitty model they're kind of pioneering, right? In fact, I would say that company is on rocky ground. I'm sure they're still making a lot of money.
Well, dude, they've hit the IP lottery, though.
Well, have they, though? I mean, Star Wars is in a tenuous place, right? The last Star Wars movie did really poorly. It was a flop, Solo. EA has not made money on Star Wars games between Battlefront and Battlefront 2.
There's Star Wars fatigue in the world.
They were
right
both
now.
flops, right? So, they've gotten to control this amazing IP that has tons of value, but they have not found a way to monetize on that value yet, right?
But as a company, though, they've got Madden, they've got FIFA, they've got Need for Speed, which is it's a big name. There's always going to be a market for a Need for Speed game. There's always going to be a market for a Star Wars game, whether it's the biggest game of the year or not is up for debate. But they're in a unique situation of being able to be dicks because they're still making money.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, but that's what I mean. I think the FIFA and the Madden money kind of are what they are, right? They're known quantities. They're money they count on. It's kind of like it's like the bread and butter money, right? But I don't think that's really growing money, right? Like I don't think they're finding new.
Yeah, it's probably not incremental.
No, I don't think they're finding new channels for revenue growth. Yeah. And as you know, being in a giant company, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah, they want to see all green numbers.
Yeah, and if you're investing in if you're making bad investments, you're dying, right? And I think in a lot of ways, you can say with EA, a lot of the things that they've invested in recently have been bad investments, including Star Wars games, which how can you not make money with Star Wars games, right?
It's just made for video games.
Yeah, like what kind of...
God damn it. That's made me so... Battlefront 2 made me so freaking mad because just like the sound effects. Like I enjoyed Battlefront 1, the newest Battlefront 1, but it was just so anemic. There was just nothing to it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, dummies, just make a new Wing Commander. Or a new TIE Fighter, X-Wing, right?
Reskin it.
Make a new X-Wing. You ever play X-Wing when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's friggin' amazing.
Yeah, just make a flight sim where you're in an X-Wing and you fly around and it's got good writing.
Oh,
and,
it's so...
makes
me so mad thinking about this. Battlefront 2 could have been so amazing and they just absolutely... just lightsabered their foot off.
Yeah, woulda, shoulda, east, woulda.
Oh my god. But it's just if they're making content that you're willing to buy, people are going to buy it no matter what it is. And that's the Fortnite thing where they're making skins and extra dealy bobbers that little kids playing Xbox want to buy, and like to just keep the gravy train rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think it's just interesting to watch. And I think it's funny that this conversation is coming up again about loot boxes with this whole 2K being dumb thing. Because, it's ongoing. Like, this isn't something that's going to end soon. It's an ongoing conversation of how these companies are going to find ways to generate profit on these games that cost so much money to make. They just cost a ton of money to make.
And market, too.
And market.
I mean, that's a huge portion of the
And support.
cost.
You have server structures and ongoing staff required to, like, continue to build content and to improve on content. I mean, it's so expensive. You think back in the day, and, no one had to make sure Tecmo Super Bowl was running, a year after the game launched. No one had to make sure the servers were live and that, Bo Jackson wasn't running circles around everybody and scoring touchdowns on every play like he did, So, excuse me. So it's just really interesting to see. But, all right, we're running low on time here. Let's say our goodbyes. Bill, where can our friends out here find you if they want to check out more Bill Ferrelli action?
You can find me at www.twitch.tv/Bill4LE. That's BILL4LE.
And your Twitter?
It's the same. Twitter's the same. All my social media, yeah. I mean, I think I said this last week. I'm not a huge Twitter guy, but I do. If I post something on Instagram, I'll usually post it on Twitter. So I'm more active on Instagram, which is the same BILL4LE, and Twitch. Those are the two arenas that I rumble in the most.
Not everyone here watched last week's show, so you gotta get them up to date every show.
That's right. Welcome to Tech Yeah.
Welcome. If you want to find me, my name's Tony Stein. Twitch and Twitter are both Toneface Killer. TONEFACEKILLAH. You can find me there most evenings playing all the nerdy games you want to see. And with that, Bill, do you want to say a good night to our friends out here?
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, we love you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and have a good night.